Dana Bash and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, they've spoken to each other on CNN before. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, we all know, is a Zionist. So is Dana Bash. They are continuing to parrot the lie about the October 7th, essay, the assault on October 7th. They're continuing to promote this documentary from Sheryl Sandberg. And I think people need to see this because I just told you a couple of days ago that Kamala Harris was hosting an event for the Biden administration to talk to people about the importance about the essay that happened to women, that allegedly happened to women on October 7th. And they are reportedly just completely continuing to parrot this lie, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So let's go ahead and dive into this discussion here from CNN. Dana Bash tweeted this out herself. Debbie Wasserman Schultz joins me for Inside Politics to shine a light on the sexual violence Hamas uses as a weapon of war. Listen to this, guys. This is crazy and wild.
Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida. Thank you so much for being here. Look, Amit's story should make every human being sick. Sexual violence. We know that Sheryl Sandberg documented those horrific stories so that the world could bear witness, ice out denialism, and yet denialism still exists. How do you combat that?
Well, Dana, thanks for shining a spotlight on this. The primary way that we combat it is by doing exactly what you and I are doing here, and that's making sure that we can shine a bright spotlight on the sexual and gender-based violence that Hamas perpetrated on its victims on October 7th, and that very likely, we know, are continuing to perpetrate that sexual violence. And Sheryl Sandberg's film is searing, but I'm really proud of the Vice President and the Second Gentleman for using the White House's platform to make sure that the world knows that Hamas used sexual violence and continues to use it as a weapon of war, is violating women, Israeli women. And I hosted a forum with the Second Gentleman on Capitol Hill a few months ago, and the Israeli police came and showed us videos that were taken by Hamas terrorists themselves, engaging in the kind of sexual violence that Sheryl's film shows, cutting off the breasts while raping their victims. And
we just got to pause here for a second. First of all, no such video exists. These people are blatantly lying. Dana Bash is blatantly lying to you. So is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. These people are paid liars. Again, if you want to ask yourself, why are they lying? Because that is what they are paid to do. And I'll show you how much money Debbie Wasserman Schultz has accepted from the Israeli lobby. But Dana Bash also, you're at a studio, you're at a network that's run by Zionists. You are a Zionist yourself. These people are shameless in their lies, and they continue to do this over and over. First of all, here's what we do know. That the video that she's talking about, we know does not exist. We know the UN has debunked this. We know the London Times has debunked this. So when Debbie Wasserman Schultz sits up here and she says, we know for a fact that this happened. No, they don't know for a fact that it has happened. And CNN continues to wonder why their ratings continue to plummet, because you guys have been nothing but propaganda for 24 hours a day. You guys have done nothing, but for 24 hours a day, just continue to lie to the American people. Your own reporters, Dana, your own reporters from your network went to Gaza, went to Israel. They put out the report about the detention centers. They talked about the fact that Israel was lying about the command centers that Hamas had. Your own reporters are debunking your own statements. So I don't know what's going on at CNN, but it's very apparent that they are not aligned in agreement with what actually happened on October 7th. And it really is an embarrassment. It really makes you look really bad. It makes you look some kind of freaking way. It's embarrassing. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Let's continue.
Firsthand accounts from first responders, as well as others, and Israelis who were hiding from Hamas terrorists.
She's stuttering because she knows she's lying. What accounts from first responders. There were no accounts from first responders with evidence that that happened. And you know what? Everyone take note of this. This is also very shameful for people who have been victims of sexual violence. It is very shameful that you would sit up here and you would make up these lies, knowing damn well you have no evidence, you have no proof. And there are people out there who did have evidence and did have proof, and they never saw their day of justice. I don't see you screaming out for those people. You care so much all of a sudden all about women that have been victims of this. Why were you silent? Why were you so quiet when Tara Reid came forward? And Tara Reid came forward initially before Joe Biden ran for president. Where was that I care about women and believe women then? You didn't care because it did not fit your narrative. This is disgusting. Debbie Wasserman Schultz should not even be in Congress anymore, considering the fact this is the woman who was a part of the DNC, fraud. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This is the same woman who cheated Bernie Sanders and openly admitted it. And not only is she still in Congress, but she's on committees. How is this allowed? There's no fairness in the justice system. There's no fairness at all.
And the denialism is outrageous.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we knock it down.
And as we both said, the vice president and the second gentleman, they're hosting an event at the White House. What words do you want to hear from the vice president during that event today?
This is the event that I was talking about from Kamala Harris, that she was hosting this event to continue to drill this message into people. So they know a lot of people don't believe this story. And so that's why they had Hillary Clinton host these events at Columbia University to try to convince people this idea with propaganda. The way that this works is you continue to repeat it until people believe it, and people aren't believing it. So now they're getting other people to continue this narrative. So since it didn't work with Hillary Clinton, now they're trying to get Kamala Harris to do it. They got her to do it. And of course, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We're going to call her Shrimp Ramen.
Well, I'm confident I'll hear what she and the second gentleman have continued to say, and that is that there was sexual and gender-based violence that occurred on October 7th, that Hamas uses it as a weapon of war, and that any organization, either international or domestic, that denies it is essentially allowing the commission of acts of violence again and again. There can't be an exception for Jewish victims. There can't be an exception for Israelis. The idea that it's Me Too unless you're a Jew is unacceptable. And, when you have...
No one has said that. I'm so sorry. Do you hear what she just said? Do you hear what she just said? She said this idea that it's Me Too, except if you're a Jew. No one has said this. Not one person. Oh, and by the way, since you care so much about these alleged attacks, where is that same empathy for the Palestinians that have experienced sexual violence in the detention center, which your network, your reporters reported on? Where's that same sympathy? I don't hear Dana Bash talking about that. I don't hear Debbie Wasserman Schultz talking about that. They're not talking about it because they don't want to talk about it because it doesn't fit their narrative. Your own reporters. What a mess. How dare you weaponize this? Jeez.
Republicans in Congress, like we did last week, defund the UN Population Fund, which provides resources all over the world to combat sexual violence against women across the globe. You can see where Republican priorities are compared to President Biden and Vice President Harris, who are using the administration's platform to lead in making sure that these crimes are not only not denied, but that there are consequences for them.
Just a couple of quick questions about things related to this coming up in the United States Congress and on the campaign trail. First, you spent time in Israel since October 7th. You met with Prime Minister Netanyahu. He is scheduled to address Congress July 24th. Will you attend the speech, and Do you agree with the notion of him being invited in the first place?
Of course she will.
I will be attending the speech, and I, of course, believe that the leader of Israel, one of the United States' closest allies and friends, not just in the region, but anywhere in the world, that hearing from him is critical and separate from whether you agree or disagree on some of the decisions that he's made.
No, it is not important. It is not critical that you hear from a war criminal. That's not important. It is not critical. If anything, you should be shunning a war criminal. You don't invite him in to speak to Congress. There are a number of congressional members that are choosing to sit this out. Now, sadly to say, some of them had no problem with voting to send those weapons to Israel. But there are a number of Congress members that are choosing to sit this out. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is bought. This has nothing to do with Hamas. This has nothing to do with Gaza. She is bought and paid for. She does not work for her constituents. She works for the state of Israel. She works for the Israeli lobby. She works for the military-industrial complex. That is who she works for. Pathetic.
And every member has to make their own decision about whether to attend, but not only do I owe my constituents that, but it's a relationship that we need to honor.
And the war in the Middle East is presenting a real challenge for the Democratic Party. It's playing out at the ballot box this month. There is a primary contest in New York, the 16th district there. Incumbent Jamal Bowman, who has called stories of Israeli women that Hamas raped, quote, propaganda. He's being challenged by George Latimer, who says he is unabashedly pro-Israel. Again, this is a Democratic primary. Have you made a decision? Are you going to weigh in and support one or the other?
All I'll say about that race is that it is terribly, terribly unacceptable that the rhetoric that Jamal Bowman has used. He's engaged in anti-Semitic rhetoric. He has, for the entire 8 months until just last week, when it was clear polling was problematic for him, finally condemned what Hamas perpetrated against Israelis on October 7th. He is engaged in conduct unbecoming of a member of Congress, and it's terribly unfortunate, and his constituents will have to decide whether they want to return him to the Congress.
Yeah, and he also walked back the denialism later of this.
So look, here's the thing. At the end of the day, she's going to support the other politician, just like Hillary Clinton is, right? Again, you have to follow the money. Where is the money going? Who is she supporting and why is she supporting them? Because of the money that is flowing in. So this is important. Jamal Bowman right now is on the verge of possibly losing this campaign, right? Now, I have a lot of criticism for Jamal Bowman. I don't support Jamal Bowman because he's still in the Democratic Party. He's still part of the two-party system. But if Jamal Bowman loses, and we'll show you a little bit about this later, if Jamal Bowman loses, it'll be in part because AIPAC has turned against him. The Israeli lobby has turned against him. Even though he's taken money from the Israeli lobby, we'll show you a little bit of that when we get into the Charlemagne story. But they have turned against him. This is how they were able to get Cynthia McKinney out. All that big money coming from AIPAC. And then there's the part that Jamal Bowman, did not uphold some of the promises that he made to the progressive community that supported him. So there's that as well.
Sexual assault that went on October 7th. But so it sounds like
not real.
But you're stopping short of endorsing his opponent.
This is a race in New York, and I generally don't get involved in congressional races outside of my home state, only occasionally. I'm no longer the chair of the DNC, so I'm staying focused on Florida and making sure we can win the majority, because the Republicans have proved over and over again that that's essential, because we have to make sure that we can stand by our ally Israel and not use it as a political wedge and a political football, bring the hostages home, get this deal agreed to, so that we can end the war and make sure that Gazans can get the humanitarian aid they need.
Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anna.
What a disaster. What a freaking mess. That is absolutely disgusting. But look at where the money is coming from. So, of course, she is compromised. APAC Tracker pointed this out. No such evidence exists. See, they were, debunking Dana Bash and Debbie Wasserman Schultz as well. This is important. We have to say this over and over again. No such evidence exists. They are blatantly lying. But she's compromised, right? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the representative, is funded by foreign interests. She's in District Florida 25, Democratic Party, election date August 20th. She has received over $907,000 from AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. You don't get that kind of money from them. You don't get that kind of money from them at all unless you are willing to protect them at all costs and you are willing to sell out. That's just how it works, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, but it's the truth. So she's just openly lying. You see? Openly lying. This account here on Twitter, K, said, if such evidence exists, why were they not able to present it? This is important. And this is a valid question. This is from the UN. The commission has reviewed testimonies obtained by journalists and the Israeli police concerning assault, but has not been able to independently verify such allegations. Due to a lack of access to victims, witnesses, and crime sites. So listen to this. Due to a lack of access to victims, witnesses, and crime sites. But apparently, according to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she had access to all these witnesses. Okay, right. Obstruction of its investigations by the Israeli authorities. So the Israeli authorities also obstructed this. The commission was unable to review the unedited version of such testimonies. For the same reason, the commission was also unable to verify reports of the torture and mutilation. Additionally, the commission found some specific allegations to be false, inaccurate, or contradictory with other evidence or statements and discounted these from its assessment. The commission did not find credible evidence, however, that militants received orders to commit sexual violence, and so it was unable to make conclusions on this issue. Did everybody hear that? They were unable to make conclusions on this issue. Yet Debbie Wasserman here apparently seems to have more information and more access than the UN does. And she's out here making damning statements as though they are fact. Craig Markheimer also called her out. Remember Craig Markheimer? He used to work at the UN. This is not only disinformation. Wasserman Schultz should be aware that in knowingly disseminating this kind of genocide propaganda, she may be guilty of incitement, a distinct crime under the Genocide Convention, reminiscent of incitement cases at Nuremberg and the Rwanda Tribunal. So do you see what she is doing? What Debbie Wasserman Schultz is saying here is very dangerous. You have no evidence. You have no proof. And she is out there on CNN stating it as fact. Now, I don't know about Dana, except for the fact that I know that Dana is also a Zionist out here pushing this rhetoric and this narrative. But don't be so stupid and foolish, because Debbie Wasserman Schultz statements can also drag you down, because you sat there during that interview and you agreed with her. This is where we are now, folks. This is how bad it is. And people sit there and they wonder, we don't understand why mainstream media ratings are so low. We just keep losing ratings and we keep bringing in all these new managers and things just can't seem to get right. We've even started interviewing people on the right and we still don't understand. Why are the ratings so low? Because you're liars. That's why. I can't believe they still continue to bring on shrimp ramen. And I say it because every time I look at her, I think about a bowl of ramen noodles. What a mess. What a mess. Rondo said her name is Zionist Wasserman Schultz. Whoo. Janine says they need to get Dana up out of there. Yes, they do. But Dana knows how her bread is buttered, right? So she knows exactly, you know, she knows. She knows what's going on. Let's go to some of the other comments up here. Thank you for the super chat, Tates. Where are those who chanted USA, USA, USA when Zionists fully enslaved the USA from the bank to the tank? That's a good question, Tates. Thank you for the super chat, Anthony. I wouldn't use track APAC stuff since the info is available from the source and track APAC pushes Justice Democrat sellouts. Plus, this issue is bigger than one PAC. I hear what you're saying, but I have shown Debbie Wasserman Schultz her funding information on Open Secrets too. So I've shown that as well. But I hear you. Brian, don't do my ramen noodles like that. I am sorry, Brian. Brian's like, don't take me there, Sabs.